Hello and welcome to ABA Made Easy. I'm Mauricio, and today we'll be going over the second part of C, skill acquisition. So we're going to use a token board today. What do you want to work for? Do you want to work for a magic trick, candy, or $1 million? Alright, I hear you loud and clear. You want a magic trick. So we're going to work for a magic trick. So if you get 6 tokens, I'll show you a magic trick at the end. If you're finding these videos useful, go ahead and hit like below, but let's get right into it. C7, implement discrimination training. Now, while I'm a big proponent of educating people on discrimination, this refers to another type of discrimination. This type of discrimination is knowing how to behave depending on what stimuli are presented. This is done by reinforcing behavior in the presence of one stimulus and not another stimulus. Think of this like a traffic light. When you have a traffic light that says green, it means go. When it's red, it means stop, assuming you don't live in Florida. This is because green has been reinforced by having less chance of getting involved in a collision or receiving a ticket. But discrimination can be much more basic, as in naming animals and differentiating the animals, or more complex, like learning how to see a subtle change in a brain scan and knowing how to intervene. When doing ABA therapy, discrimination training should be done by only changing one characteristic. If you're teaching letters, they should all be the same size and the same color, so that you're not confusing colors and shapes with letters. So if they're all black 1-inch characters, the person will know that the thing you're trying to differentiate is the letter. By the same token, if you're teaching colors, all the colors should be the same shape. You shouldn't have a red triangle and a blue square when teaching colors, or that can get confusing. So you want all the shapes to be the same, but you want the colors to be different. One note on discriminative stimulus, which is hard to say, or SD, is that in behavior analysis, all the stimuli have a letter S, and then they put a little prefix on top, D, so you know the stimulus is a discriminative stimulus. So a discriminative stimulus is the type of stimulus that will give you reinforcement. In contrast, you have an S delta, they use the Greek letters here, that just means that an S delta does not reinforce. So why do behavior analysts use this type of terminology? Because they like making your life difficult and they like to sound smart and scientific. That's probably why. So if you have 4 cards out and the cards say 1, 2, 3, 4, and you say point to number 1, the card that's marked with the number 1 in the presence of the instruction of point to number 1, that's the SD, which means that only touching the card in the presence of that instruction will give reinforcement. All the other cards in the presence of that instruction are S delta, which means that if they touch it, they will not get reinforcement. C8, implement stimulus control transfer procedures. After you've successfully completed discrimination training, a behavior should occur more under one stimulus than another stimulus. This is called stimulus control. Now, when you're first teaching a behavior, you might want to provide a few hints, also known as prompts. So if you say, point to ball, a prompt might be gesturing towards the ball, or maybe modeling how to point to the ball. Those are both types of prompts. But see, the problem is that the stimulus control is a little bit with the prompt and not just the instruction. So in order to make it fully under the stimulus control of the instruction rather than the gesture or pointing, you have to do a fading procedure. And that brings us to C9. C9, implement prompt and prompt fading procedures. So the point of prompt fading is to transfer stimulus control from a prompted instruction, or SD, to an SD that the instructor is giving, to an SD that they would find in their natural environment. So not all prompting is created equal. Some prompting is more intrusive than others. The goal is to use the least intrusive prompt possible while still teaching the task, and then slowly get it less and less intrusive until you don't need a prompt anymore. This is called fading. So here's a list of prompts from most intrusive to least intrusive. And we'll use the example, touch the one that has wheels, as an example. So if you're using a physical prompt, which there's two types, you're gonna actually hold their hand or finger and make them touch the one that has wheels. So let's say a car is on the table. So you use a full physical prompt and you make them touch it. Okay? Now there's two types of physical prompts. There's a full physical prompt where your whole hand is on their hand to make them touch the car. Then there's a partial physical prompt where you lead them there halfway, or you're holding them in the elbow but not like making the whole gesture for them. You're just kind of helping them physically but not doing the whole work for them. So you have full physical, then you have partial physical, then you have model, which is you model how you're supposed to do the correct response. So you say, touch the one that has wheels, and then you show them how to touch the one that has wheels, and then they do it. So that's less intrusive than a physical prompt because you're not actually holding their hand, but it's still kind of intrusive because you're giving them the whole solution. You're showing them exactly how to do it. So what's less intrusive than that? Visual. So visual, you kind of give them the hint by putting the cards closer to them, positioning it a little bit closer to them, just giving them a hint, but not actually modeling the prompt. You could also put something around the card that they're supposed to choose, just give them a hint visually or an arrow right next to it, but you're not actually holding their hand, which is physical, or modeling, which is doing the action itself. You're just highlighting where they're supposed to pick. After that, it's gestural. Gestural is that you just gesture towards it, but you don't do the whole action. So you don't actually point to the one that has wheels, you kind of gesture towards it, or you kind of just gesture. And the least intrusive prompt is verbal. Verbal is where you give a little hint. Okay, so you say, touch the one that has wheels, and then before they make a mistake, you say, car. And then they know to pick car. Goal is, once again, use the least intrusive prompt possible, and you're gonna fade out the prompts until no prompt is needed. One final note on prompting, you want to try to avoid inadvertent prompting or accidental prompting, which is when you don't realize that you're prompting, but you're giving them a hint and they're not responding to the instruction or the SD that you want. So for example, if you're doing clicker training with a dog, which is how you train dogs using ABA therapy, you might be saying, sit. And then every time you say sit, you bring up your hand like this. But what the dog is learning is that every time you do this, it means to sit down. They're not listening to your instruction. So try this with your dog. Maybe you've trained your dog to go sit, and they only know how to sit when you go like this. But if you put your hands behind your back and you say sit, they're not gonna sit because you've inadvertently prompted with this. So just be careful, watch your hands, and when you're presenting the instruction to see if they truly know how to do it, don't try to help at all. Just see how they do. Whoa, we are breezing through this stuff, aren't we? All right, let's just keep going. We got it going. Momentum. C10. Implement generalization and maintenance procedures. Now, we spoke briefly about generalization in a previous video. Do you remember what it is? It's basically when you have a skill that you can use in other settings with other people or at a different time. Basically, generalization is that you could engage in a skill or behavior in different conditions than where it was initially taught. The example I gave is that if you teach a child to draw with a crayon, he'll generalize that skill to write with a pencil. So how do you generalize? The trick is to try to vary up the way you present the stimuli. So you want to try it in different settings, you want to try it using different objects, and you also want to involve the parents, so the parents are also engaging in the behavior with the child instead of just you. Or you could also vary up how you present the SD. So instead of saying point to the car every single time, you say point to the car, touch the car, show me car, where's the car? And then they point to it. So you vary up the way you instruct, but it still has to have the same response. This allows the learner to see different variations. Also, if you see the person engaging in the behavior outside of the session in their natural environment, reinforce. Alright, let's talk about maintenance now. So we talked about maintenance briefly in a previous video as well. Do you remember what maintenance is? It's where a learner continues performing behavior that was mastered previously. So we don't want someone to just master a skill and then forget about it. What's the point of that? So what we do is we check in from time to time to see if they still remember how to engage in that behavior. So let's say they've learned how to label the color green. They got it down packed. So instead of practicing it every session, which they already know the answer, you start doing it every week or every 2 weeks or every month. Now, it's not up to the RBT to choose how often to test it out. That's the BCBA or BCABA's responsibility. But just know that what you're trying to do is make sure they still got it, and so you test it from time to time. C11, implement shaping procedures. So I made a video on how to shape verbal operant behavior right over here if you're interested, but it's a super simple concept, shaping. Basically, you're just going to reinforce closer and closer approximations to the behavior that you want. That's what they mean when they say shaping the behavior. So let's use language for example. If you're trying to teach someone to say computer, and you're like, what's this? And they say, ah, they're not even close, but they tried saying a word, so you reinforce. That's the first thing. Then the next thing they say, ah-uh. Oh wow, 2 syllables, that's even closer. So now you reinforce for ah-uh. Are you going to reinforce for ah again? Nope, because they already got closer, so they have to say ah-uh or better now to get reinforced. Then they say ah-uh. Oh wow, that's much closer, so now reinforce ah-uh instead of ooh-ah or whatever. You get the point. The closer they're getting to the actual word, the more you're going to reinforce. But it's not just for verbal language. Let's say, again, with the example of clicker training with the dog, which by the way, what you do is you find something they like a treat, and then you use a clicker, so that way you could just click every time they have the correct behavior, and then they know that that's a reinforcing thing, okay? So that's a conditioned reinforcer. So if you're trying to teach a dog to sit, you say sit, and then they don't sit because they don't know what's going on. If they slowly move into a sitting position, then you reinforce. And then the closer they get to a sitting position when you say sit, the more you reinforce. And you reinforce more as they're getting closer. And then eventually they'll know just to sit all the way down, and then you click and you give them their reinforcer. And that's shaping. And last section, C12, implement token economy procedures. Alright, look over here, we got 5 tokens. We only need 1 more. We just finished this section, and I'll give you your final token, and then we'll choose the prize that you chose, which is the magic trick. I don't know why you didn't choose $1 million. I wanted to give it away, but hey, it was your choice. Token economies have 3 components. The first one is target behaviors, so basically the behaviors you're working on. In this case, in this video, it was staying focused during the sections. So every time you were focused during one of the sections, you got a token. Number 2, you have to be able to earn tokens or points for each behavior. And you have. I've given you a token every time you've gotten through a section. And number 3, you must have a way to redeem your tokens for a grand prize. But you don't say grand prize in behavior analysis because that's too fun. So what they call it is a backup reinforcer. So in token economies, the grand prize is a backup reinforcer. So I give you 3 options at the beginning, 3 backup reinforcers that you could choose. You chose the magic trick. The point of these token economies is to improve flow. So instead of giving you a reinforcer after every single behavior for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever, I make you get a token for 6 behaviors, and then you get your grand prize or backup reinforcer. So it just helps improve flow. Another example that they use for token economy is making money at your job. So cash. Cash is a form of token economy. You work, you get money for that work, and then you can redeem those tokens or cash for whatever you want. And you've earned your 6th token. All right, time for you to receive your backup reinforcer. So here's your backup reinforcer. So I bought this deck of cards, and I thought, oh no, I got ripped off. Like, these aren't even printed. They're completely blank, useless. Like, magic tricks are horrible with this. Like, let's say you choose this card, right? And you want to make it come to the top. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's on the top. Wasn't that magical? Not as impressive, right? So I realized that the trick is that you have to kind of turn here. And once you do that, this deck of cards, you give it a few seconds, and next time you cut the deck, boom, you have a queen that appears, which is great. But what about the rest of the cards? Well, it actually prints the rest of the cards. And what about the back? Yep, the back too. So the whole deck is now printed. See? Alright, hope you enjoyed that. Awesome job getting to the end of this video. You're doing awesome. We're past the halfway mark with this clutch review. Next section is D, behavior reduction. That one's gonna be pretty cool. But you got through skill acquisition, which was the bulk of the exam. Alright, you're doing it. You're doing it. Go pat yourself on the back. You're doing awesome. It's really fun bringing these to you. If you find these helpful, consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.
I was needing some